Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Are you an author looking for your next book review? Feel free to look at my website and put in a request. If you're a reader and you're looking for the next great read, I have a lot of hidden gems just waiting to be announced to the world. So go to my website, amysbookshelfreviews.com, and see where it takes you. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Sit back and listen to interviews, discussion about books, and anything else literary. There's always something or someone new on the show. Recording. Good evening, listeners. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Behind the books, honest voices, real stories. I'm Amy Shannon, and each episode brings you heartfelt conversations with the storytellers behind the stories, authors, publishers, creatives who shape the literary world. It's the second Sunday of the month, and welcome to Storytime for all ages. Today, we have an author with us today. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, Amy, this is Ron Kinscherf, children's author, picture books, and I am currently working on my 12th picture book, and I have two different series. We can talk about that as we go on. I'm based in Quincy, Illinois, which is a small little town on the Mississippi, kind of where Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri all meet. So I got started in this process at the age of 60, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
what made you think, I'm going to write a kid's book?
Grandchildren. I was in between. I left a position in the real world, a big boy job, and I was kind of just trying to figure out what the next step was going to be in my world. Right. And I had grandchildren at the time. I had 5 grandchildren, and one of my daughters-in-law suggested that I write kid books based on the way I play with the grandkids, because I would make up stories with them all the time, and I really didn't take it seriously.
Right.
And then I got an idea, so I wrote a story. Had never written anything before. And some friends read it, and then they kind of convinced me to self-publish it. Then I kept getting more ideas for this ant colony I created, and that led to more publishing and more fun and frivolity, and that's kind of how I got going. I just completely started with no idea what I was doing, and now I've been picked up by a publisher based out of New York City, and
that's great.
It's been a really crazy ride.
No, that is extremely wonderful. And the fact that I love the fact that you write children's books. Mm-hmm. When my boys were young, they're adults now, but when they were little, I would make up stories, and they loved it because they were the main characters. Yeah. And I would write out stories for them or just tell them stories. But yeah, they loved being a part of the story. Not that long ago, I created my own children's book and just published it just because I had an idea.
Right.
So, and I do think that more adults should read children's books. They might learn something or remind them of something. Children absorb everything.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun. I mean, honestly, because so when I was making up stories for my one grandson in particular, I let him pick the topic. And it was usually at nighttime or nap time, and he'd just look around the room and pick some random thing. So then I was under the gun to make a story up about that random thing. And that's really how this all started. And if you look at that series of mine, the Papa Tell Me a Book series, they're titled Ceiling Fan, Blanket, Elves, which is my Christmas book. And the new one coming out is Elevator, because that's stuff my grandson picked for a story. So I would make up a story about those items.
That's cool.
That's really how this all started. So
I bet he's real excited about that.
Oh, he's 7 now. And he is my, I bounce stuff off him all the time. I've had questions asked, how do you know your stuff's right for the audience that you're writing for? And I go, I live it like every day. They're over here all the time. And I have my grandsons read it with me, and they'll point out, images that they like or don't like. And, and a lot of it's stuff that they've lived through, like Elevator. How I got the idea for that one is, his family and my wife and I spent a night in the hotel, and they were fascinated by the elevator. and it was an elevator that has the windows, and they've never been in an elevator
Oh,
with windows. So so that was part of it. And then, I have bird feeders in my backyard, and this grandson and me, always, we get on these little diatribes where we're talking about certain things. And one was how we keep squirrels out of my bird feeders. So I kept coming up with all these ideas, and he goes, but Papa, what if they build an elevator? What if the squirrels build an elevator? So that ties in with their experience with the elevator, and that's kind of how the story came about. So that makes it fun too, because the grandkids will read the story and say, I remember when we talked about that. Or, does it, at one time it really doesn't say that, does it? And I go, yeah, that's something you said. So I'll put it in the book. And so it kind of makes it fun around here.
that is, that is very, just so very cool. And then you have, they're, your contributors, to the book,
Yeah. Yeah.
to the
And
story.
I have an unlimited amount of ideas, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's just, the other series, the one I got the idea for that I started writing was it's about an ant colony. And I was outside with my grandson. He was stomping on all the ant hills. And I wrote a book from the ants' point of view of having their homes destroyed. And that is how the Baker's Patio series all got started, was from him stomping on ant hills. So basically I had this community of ants, and they go through situations that we go through as humans and as adults. I have a story about, enjoying the world. I have about independence. I have a story about, things that happen to me, or us as we go through daily life, but I just put them in through the eyes of these ants that I've created. So
That's great.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, really it is. I've been, playing around. I've written a few stories about my two cats from their point of view. I just
Hmm.
haven't, I've read them to my adult kids and they love them, but, I just haven't had the time to kind of put it together and add illustrations and stuff to it too. But I think that's so much fun when you are so fortunate. You have your, your grandchildren, and my only grandchildren wear fur. I just got fur babies, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I love them too. So, I think it's, just, it's really exciting. I mean, when I get, somebody tells me, they have a children's book they want me to read, I love reading children's books.
Yeah.
And I still go back to some of the books that I read when I was a kid, and just read them because it just reminds me of, like, I don't know, a different time in my life. So,
Well,
um,
I don't know if you found this out too, but, you reread all these children's books when we were raising our children, right? And it was
right,
always such a rush. It was always get home, feed them, get them ready for bed, read the story, then, whatever it was. So you really didn't pay
right.
attention to the content of the books. Now, as a grandfather, as I'm reading these books, I'm sitting there going, this is awful. Or, this is hard to read because, it's dark lettering on dark backgrounds and you're
Yeah,
reading in a dark room. So I was able to look at that and then take the opportunity when I created these to create them in the way I would want them to be written and illustrated, so they're easier for adults to read, especially older adults.
yeah.
Um, so all my lettering is on white backgrounds, it's little stuff like that. And I always throw stuff in for adults. Like in Elevator that you gave me a very nice review for. I appreciate that. There's the part where, after they're done playing tag, they have snacks, and David says, mommy says we must wait a while before we play or we will get cramps. I mean, that's something my mom used to tell me all the time, and that's an old wives' tale that, I think that my mom, that people brought up so they wouldn't have to chase their kids after they had snacks. Okay, you got to sit out of the pool for a half hour.
Yeah.
So that's there's little things like that I try to throw in my books that are more for the adults. So they kind of enjoy it. And I've got Easter eggs in a lot of my books, just little pictures of stuff that the kids won't get, but hopefully the adults will enjoy. I found out early that my clients don't have money, Amy. They're 5.
Yeah.
So if the adults like reading my books, hopefully they'll buy them when they see them on the shelf versus other people's books, because they say, oh, that's Ron. That's that Ron guy. He's kind of funny when he puts stuff in there for You know, his book had leg warmers in it for the, you know, character, stuff like that.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's the kind you want. Like when your kid says, read me a bedtime story, and they want you to read the same one over and over and
Yep.
over again. And, you know, some of them you don't mind. And if you skip a page or a paragraph, your kids know it.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, sometimes, you know, as long as we have the control to say, this is what we read our children, no one else telling us what we can and cannot have our children read. You know, I've seen so many, and a lot of children's books being banned just because somebody doesn't like them, so they think the whole world shouldn't read it. Do you ever come across
Oh
where,
gosh, yes. So that's actually happening in my community right now.
oh geez,
The library had a banned book event where, and it wasn't just children's books. It was, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird and all the books that have been banned, and they were giving them away for free. And that, like, and Dr. Seuss's Lorax was on there, and Captain Underpants and stuff like that. So it's been buzzing our community here for quite a while. Banned books and you know, what people think and don't think about what should be read and how kids should access books. So as long as they're put in the proper place in the library, I don't see, you know,
yeah,
the adult of the child really should have the control over what they bring home and don't bring home. So
right. And if they, you know, it's up to them for, you know, depending on the age of the child,
hmm
but, you know, also the parents too. I mean, I wouldn't want somebody to say, oh, you have to only read these books to your kids, but you can't read any of these. And that would just drive me nuts. I don't want somebody telling me what I can and cannot read and what I can and can't read to my kids.
well, what's interesting is I got an email from somebody before they bought some of my books. I forgot all about this. You brought it up. It said, are your books written from a liberal point of view? And I was like, they're kids' books. No, I just wrote a story, about life. I mean, I don't think so. No. And it's just interesting that there's people that are that concerned about, um, whether it's a, you know, a liberal or ultra conservative book or whatever it might be, that instead of just reading them a story and then having, I mean, what I want my books to do is lead to a conversation when they're over. I'm very subtle with the messaging. I try to be very subtle with the messaging. So, it would lead to conversation, you know, from the adult or the reader to the kid, like, hey, did you like this book? What'd you think? You know, what'd you get out of it? That type of thing. And that's what my aim is, you know, whether they get a message or not. I just, you know, some are intended to have a message. Some are just supposed to be fun. Like the one you read, Elevator. But, you know, as long as it creates conversation, as long as the reader and the child also enjoy themselves, that's kind of what I'm going for too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose of it. If your child enjoys being read to, even
Mm-hmm.
if they know how to read, you know, I think even kids that know how to read, they like to be read to.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I
going through
love to
that.
be read to, but, you know, nobody's around to read me a story.
Yeah. I'm running through that right now with a 7 and 5-year-old grandchild
Yeah.
I have. And actually the other 7-year-old, or he's 8 now. They like to be read to even though they can read.
Yeah. And, I had twins, and, one is special needs, and the other one, had to catch up, but he did. But he used to read to his brother, and
Mm-hmm.
that was just something nice. I mean, because it is nice having something read to you, even if, you know how to read. Um, it's kind of like a different perspective depending on how the person reads to it. But children who are read to and who um, have a you know they comprehension of what is being read, and then that they also can read it and understand it, not just by the words, but the pictures too. You know, they'll grow up and be readers or maybe even writers. And I
Yeah.
think to be a writer, you have to be a reader. Um,
Well,
Otherwise.
And another thing I found out, Amy, when I started doing this, and I didn't realize it, was I go into classrooms and read to kids and play with the kids and stuff like that, and I didn't realize how many kids don't have books.
Yeah.
So that really surprised me. So what I do is when I go into a classroom, I find sponsors to buy books for the kids. So each kid goes home with one of my books. Um, I was floored by that. And then I started doing research on literacy in my area. And the Midwest, it was shocked at the lack of literacy. And then you read further on and, if people can't read, I mean, it naturally leads to crime, drugs, all the bad things in our society right now because it's impossible for them generally to get a job because they can't read or they read at a level that is well below what they should be reading at. So I kind of look at it like if I can give a kid a book and it leads him to reading more than he currently is reading now, and maybe he has to go to the library every now and then and get more of my books or whatever,
Right.
I've won.
Yeah.
That's one more person who's going to be able to contribute to society, and whether he writes stories or not. Because my audience is at the age where like their minds are open. I mean,
Yeah.
the imagination is limitless, and if we give them the chance, I think they don't know whether they like to read or not at that age, and I just think they need the chance, and they need people like us and the people around them, adults, guardians, brothers, sisters, to sit down and give them time to read, or
Definitely.
be read to.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in elementary school, we would have silent reading time, be like a half an hour, and we
Yeah.
all read either a book we brought from home or something from the library. But that just, the fact that kids don't have books that just kind of just breaks my heart.
Yeah. I think part of it, at least where I think the kids still have that private reading time in school. I do think that's going on, but I think a lot of it is the way our world is right now. It's rush, rush, rush.
Yeah.
And kids get home from school, they have baseball practice that night or gymnastics or whatever they have going on, eat
Yeah.
supper, they go there, and then it's time to shower, do their homework, and go to bed. And I just don't think families take the time where, okay, all of us, mom, dad, sister, brother, we're going to sit down and read for 15 minutes, whether the adults read the paper or you grab a novel or whatever. And I think that's something that needs to be brought back, or
Yeah.
whether they read the Bible or whatever, something like
Yeah.
that, that needs to be brought back, just to slow down a little bit and get that imagination rolling just a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've seen like toys and stuff that they, commercials and ads for different toys. And then there's a couple that I found and I'm like, wow, those kids that's a great toy because it's not electronic and has all these, doohickeys on it. They just they can just play with them like when kids played with dolls or
Mm-hmm.
action figures or whatever, and still be able to use their use their imagination. We have to bring out that imagination in children, and they become more creative adults, and they may be able to grow up and be something. They are something when they grow up,
Mm-hmm.
and they can choose what kind of person they want to be.
Yeah. And
And
I think there's,
traveling these stories, it's
yeah.
like traveling to a whole new world.
Well, and there's different levels of imagination too. I mean, I've been blessed that mine's wacky. And, I mean, it's, but everybody has some sort of imagination, and some could be creative mathematically or in a science or athletically or something like that. But I just think that needs to be, I hate to use the word developed, but encouraged a little bit, outside of what their day to day, even if it's just going outside and play, just make up games in the backyard with your kids, whatever it could be.
Yeah, that I remember doing that, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems so long ago. But even now, like, me and my kids, my boys, we joke around. They, be silly, and they know it's okay to be silly even if you're an adult. We don't feel like being an adult right now. We're just going to be silly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I just, illiteracy is a major problem in the United States, and even adults that can't read. I don't know how they manage if they can't read or read well.
Well, I think a lot of them don't, Amy, and
Yeah.
that's the crime and drugs and unemployment and all that type of stuff that takes place, and it's a cycle. It's just a cycle, and again, I think we just have to start early, and get these youngsters somehow involved in books or reading. I'm not saying they're going to go home and read for 2 hours, whatever, but just make it.
Yeah, you were talking about, that people don't manage very well. I remember when I was younger, I used to write stories, short stories and plays, and then I would make my sisters and their boyfriends or somebody just read a part,
Yeah.
And one of my sister's boyfriend, who had graduated high school, he could barely read, and he read. I mean, it was like he was sounding out each word as if he was like 6 years old trying to read a big word.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking, I'm like, how did he even graduate high school if he can't read that well?
I've also learned from doing this that kids are being taught to read differently now than we were taught to read. There's not the phonetic method, rules-based method of teaching reading. And I think that's why a lot of these kids are being diagnosed or not being diagnosed with that dyslexia is some kids need rules like I before E except after C. And
right.
I think some of the schools are getting back to that, but I think a lot of the reading was being taught just by, going through your science or geography or whatever you happen to be studying that time. I don't think they actually had, reading classes where they were being taught those rules. So I think that, that's a fault of our education system.
Yeah, I mean, that is terrible. Surprised I remember kindergarten, but I mean, I knew how to read before I entered kindergarten because my mother taught me.
Mm-hmm.
She used to write stories too and read them to us, so that was her thing. But she taught us all, make sure that we knew how to read, and before we even entered school. And elementary school, kindergarten was learning the alphabet using letter people.
Yeah.
And now it's like if you fall behind, but you're not quite special needs, you kind of get fit into like this crack that, where you have the students who excel, and then you have the ones that are actually, they do have special needs, but some kids, just because they can't read well, they don't have special needs, but they struggle with all of their schoolwork. So, it's, part of it is teachers are overworked. And another part is, like you said, it's rush, rush, rush when kids get home because they have everything to do. Sometimes their parents aren't home when they get home from school, or whoever their guardian is. And they just don't, they don't help. I remember I used to love my mom helping me with my homework. And because she was creative, and where my father was a genius, literally, he was a genius, and he looked at problems in a different way, and he could give me a division problem, and it would take me, just a short little time, but he would write 3 pages on how he got the same answer. So I never asked him. I asked him once for help with my homework, but some kids don't even have that anymore.
No.
even adults. Adults are going back to school. I went back to school in when I was 38, and I got my degree in English because I wanted to be a better writer, and I wanted to learn how to write other things, not just creative. I knew academic and technical stuff, but and sometimes you just need that support. Somebody say, "Oh, I'll read this to you." When I told you about writing for about my cats, I actually, instead of having them, my sons and my son's wife, read them, I read them aloud to them, and that I could see their reactions, and it was kind of cool how that happened. But I really want to thank you for being on the show. I really, I hope that you come back, because I know your elevator book, which I read, and it was, you saw my review, so you know that I liked it. But when it comes out and closer, maybe we can do another one. I would love to have you back here. So I'm just going to close out, and it's the end of another great conversation. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you or your book, or if you wish for you or your book to be on the show, just go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Tune in here again next week for another tantalizing discussion. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Hi, this is Amy from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Don't forget to tune in every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You never know who's going to be on the show or what we're going to talk about. There's some new friends in the literary world, and I'm here to help weed them out.